confiscarea totală a averii pentru săvârșirea infracțiunilor de genocid prevăzut de 357 alineatul 1 litera C cod penal.
Despați de acolo.
Nu e voie să le legați. Nu, ne legați. Stați la loc, mă, băieți, nu mă legați, mă, e rușine. E rușine, v-am crescut ca o mamă. Stați la loc, mă. Ce asta? Rupeți mâna, dați-mi drumul la mână. Dați-mi drumul.
Sentence was carried out. Television faked the actual execution, but the corpses were real enough.
It reassured me to know Ceausescu was dead, even though we're humanists and I'm a poet. If he hadn't died, then we would have died. And that's the truth.
The executioners took care their victim could be recognized. It was in the Soviet Union itself that Gorbachev faced insuperable problems. He could allow freedom to the satellites, but would he allow it to the Soviet republics? There were 15 separate republics. Most wanted independence. The Soviet Communist Party was losing control. Goods in the shops were scarce.
We rightly chose freedom, democracy, glasnost and pluralism. But we got one thing wrong. People judge the state of the country by what they could or couldn't buy in the markets and shops.
Many older people found the pace of change upsetting.
We promised that things would get better, but things were getting worse and worse. We should have allowed freedom of trade, but Gorbachev didn't dare.
Making the transition to a market economy was hard, but they did allow the opening of Moscow's first McDonald's. The young wanted pop music, fashion, the chance to make money, the right to travel.
Society moved on, and the party stayed where it was. People started running like rats from a sinking ship.
Gorbachev gave Soviet citizens for the first time the freedom to demonstrate. Now demonstrations called for an end to the Communist Party's monopoly of power. But communist hardliners opposed reform. Despite them, Gorbachev, himself a communist, chose pluralism. The Communist Party, which had ruled since the October Revolution of 1917, would have to share power with others. It was a complete break with the practice of Lenin and Stalin. Of the 15 republics of the Soviet Union, the Russian Federation was the largest. Most were responding to Gorbachev's loosening control with demands for national freedom. In the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, annexed by Stalin in 1940, the demand was total independence. In January 1990, Gorbachev had gone to Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania, to argue that the Soviet Union must not be broken up.
Перестройка, с одной стороны, вот она открыла возможности через демократию, гласность, через признание реальностей. А реальность — это то, что мы многонациональное государство, и мы должны считаться с народами. Это не Америка.
Despite Gorbachev, the other Baltic states, Estonia and Latvia, followed Lithuania's lead and also demanded independence.
Была попытка остановить поток.
He was trying to dam a river that was in full flood, but the current was too strong. It broke the dam and flooded everything in its path.
Boris Yeltsin had been Communist Party chief in Moscow. Popular, ambitious, he now used economic discontent to weaken Gorbachev and the Soviet Union. In May 1990, he was chosen parliamentary leader of the Russian Republic.
Yeltsin is a very good man for Russian people. Gorbachev, Bush, goodbye, 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 goodbye.
На каком-то этапе
People began to question Gorbachev's reforms. They started to listen to demagogues who promised that everything would be better tomorrow.
Yeltsin's struggle with Gorbachev was out in the open. Russia, richest of the republics, would be Yeltsin's road to power.
Gorbachev would never really acknowledge that the Soviet Union would break up. Yeltsin recognized that it was inevitable. And he was one of the first to take the initiative, saying that Russia should declare its sovereignty and independence. Indeed, that's how he actually urged the other republics to become independent.
On the international scene, Gorbachev was still the man the West could do business with. At their meetings, Gorbachev asked Bush for help in his economic difficulties. Bush warned Gorbachev not to use violence if the Baltic states pushed for independence.
It looked like the Soviet Union was coming unstuck a little bit. At that point, I think we started to believe we were in a race to try to finish the business of ending the Cold War with Gorbachev still in power.
The Red Army was pulling out of an Eastern Europe it had dominated for decades. In Germany, the troops would leave a question mark behind them. Divided by the Cold War, Germany was moving towards unification. Would the Soviet Union really allow a united Germany to belong to the West's military alliance, NATO?
Personally, for Gorbachev and for me, it wasn't a problem. But it was a problem for Soviet society, which had gone through the terrible war with fascist Germany and suffered the death of 20 or 30 million people.
They really ended up not having any other alternative. If they really meant what they said about we will not use force to keep the empire together, that meant that a country should be free to choose its own alliances.
The West German Chancellor Helmut Kohl undertook to limit Germany's military strength, to pay the Red Army's resettlement costs, not to station nuclear weapons in East Germany. Kohl was ecstatic. Gorbachev had accepted that a united Germany could belong to NATO.
We called the agreement between Gorbachev and Kohl VE Day 2 because it really was the end of the Cold War.
The divided Germany at the heart of the Cold War was reunited. August 2nd, 1990. Iraq invades Kuwait. Iraq was a Soviet ally. In spite of Iraqi-Soviet ties, Secretary of State Baker succeeded in persuading Shevardnadze to a joint condemnation of the invasion.
The minister has indicated that there was some difficulty on the part of the Soviet Union in coming to this agreement.
Shevardnadze had consulted Gorbachev, but he knew their hardline enemies would use it against them. In Moscow, the daily lines for food grew longer. Tempers rose.
Can you imagine we'd live to see the day when we needed coupons to buy socks? There weren't even any socks available. There was nothing on the shelves except out-of-date tins of fish. That was the result of perestroika. When Boris Nikolaevich Yeltsin suggested a new way forward, of course, people supported him.
Russia,
where Yeltsin and his radical Democrats were taking over, had practically declared independence from the Soviet Union. They adopted law after law that replaced the laws of the Soviet Union.
All that winter, Gorbachev was harassed by pressures from each side, for reform and against it. In December, Eduard Shevardnadze resigned. With Gorbachev sitting stony-faced, he warned of a hardline coup.